Did you know that I used to live in a murder house? Okay, so my family moved out and then the murder occurred, but still, truth be told, a murder occurred underneath the floor where I slept many years later. Now, what I thought would be just a fun video to do a little bit of research on, find out about, just a kooky little murder that occurred in a place that I once called home, wound up turning into a very dark and morbid story, which is why I brought along a special guest, my good friend, Kipp Paulsen.
Hello.
Kipp, you've been to Remsen, Iowa, right?
I have, actually, yes.
What are your impressions of it?
I mean, it is a very small town, seems very sleepy, kind of a quintessential Midwest town.
Would you say it's the perfect place for a murder?
I'd say so.
Let's get into it. On Wednesday, January 2nd, 2002, at 3 o'clock p.m., Michigan State Police contacted the Plymouth County Sheriff's Office in Lamars, Iowa, regarding the possibility of a missing person. The Michigan State Police had received a tip call from a concerned family member of Donald and Lisa Boss. Donald and Lisa had moved to Remsen, Iowa from Jackson, Michigan in 1999 with their 11 children, 4 of whom were adopted. The family member claimed that they hadn't seen Donald and Lisa's son, Timothy, in over 18 months, and that the Bosses continually dodged questions as to his whereabouts. At 8:30 p.m., sheriff deputies arrived at 602 Fulton Street in Remsen, Iowa, to conduct a welfare check. There they found 37-year-old Donald Boss at home by himself, his wife and 11 children nowhere to be found. After interviewing Donald for over an hour, police took him to the Plymouth County Jail, where it became an interrogation. By 7:45 a.m. on Thursday, January 3rd, Sheriff Mike Van Otterloo surmised that Donald had killed his son and charged him with first-degree murder, holding him on $250,000 bond, despite the fact that no body had been found and the method of murder wasn't completely known.
So, 11 children.
11 children, 7 biological and 4 adopted.
How big is his house?
Not big enough for 11 children.
That just seems like you would notice that there was less children.
You would think. 11 children and his wife are nowhere to be found. I'd say that's pretty suspicious when police come knocking.
Yeah, especially in, again, Remsen's a very, very small town. Mm-hmm. 11 people gone. That's a considerable chunk of the population.
I'd say this is more than just a missing persons case for one person now. It's now a missing persons case for 12 people.
Oh my gosh.
A material witness warrant was issued for Lisa Boss, who was last seen at 6:15 p.m. Wednesday evening, packing the family van after becoming aware of the investigation into her son's death. A nationwide search commenced, with authorities believing she had fled back to Michigan. The Plymouth County Sheriff's Department asked law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for a 1998 blue Ford Windstar van with the license plate number VFY 734, which was carrying her and her children. On January 5th, 3 days after Donald had been apprehended, Lisa was detained in Montana and brought back to Iowa.
I mean, first of all, trying to find a blue Windstar van in, 2002? Mm-hmm. That's impossible. Everybody had one of those vans.
I don't know, my family didn't have one. Did your family have one?
Well, no, I guess not. But there were a lot of Windstars.
Weeks later, on Monday, February 25th, during a routine bond review hearing, Donald Boss, under the advisement of his attorneys, in order to gain favor with prosecutors and the public, revealed the location of Timothy's body, stating it could be found underneath the basement floor in a playroom of the family's home. That night, investigators went to the spot detailed by Donald and took a jackhammer to the concrete. By 2 o'clock a.m., they had uncovered human remains, which had been there for over 2 years, leading authorities to believe them to be those of 10-year-old Timothy Boss. All right, right quick, I'm going to show you pictures inside the house. So this is actually me inside the living room.
You're adorable.
Thank you. Not much has changed. And then I've got one other photo here. It's actually in the dining room. It is of me celebrating my first birthday. That's my sister and my sister's friend. Okay. Sorry, I don't remember her name. But yeah, right below our feet there is where the body was found.
Oh my gosh. But so the kid been dead for 2 years?
2 years.
And nobody... They just always saw a bunch of kids and were like, okay, that's fine.
Well, when you have that many kids, I mean, you know, who's keeping count?
And we may get to this. What do the other kids think about this?
Oh, we will get to that. We will get to that.
Because I know, like, I grew up in a big family, and, like, we tattletaled on everybody. Mm-hmm. There were no secrets, so I'm excited for however that was dealt with. Or maybe excited's not the right word.
As our resident guy from a big family, how many siblings did you have, and how many people living in the same household?
So I had 6 siblings, so 7 kids, and we were in a 3-bedroom house. So, I mean, I assume would be at least similar proportions to what's going on here, if not, like, this seems like it was way more crowded.
Yeah, so when my family lived there, they had actually turned the house into kind of like an apartment building.
Gotcha.
So my family lived on the first floor. On the top floor was a single mother and her son.
Okay.
And then in the basement were married teachers and their infant daughter.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it was decent enough to fit 3 families in it, but still, you add everything up. My parents, me, my sister, the 2 upstairs, and then the 3 downstairs. That's only 9 people total living in this house.
Now, before we proceed any further, let's dive into Timothy's life and try to make sense of how his death went unnoticed for so long. Timothy Mark Anthony Boss was born on June 30th, 1989.
Sorry. Mark Anthony. I'm just sorry.
I know, it's hard to avoid. Even when I came upon that detail, I was like, should I even include his 2 middle names?
Okay, sorry.
He was adopted by Donald and Lisa Boss in 1999 in Jackson, Michigan, along with 3 other boys, Claxton William, David Lee, and Roman William, all of whom were considered special needs children. Shortly after their adoption, the family moved to Remsen, Iowa, and while Donald and Lisa's 7 biological children were enrolled in public school, the 4 adopted children were homeschooled. Near the end of the 2000-2001 school year, per Iowa's homeschool regulations, school officials reached out regarding Timothy's end-of-the-year assessment. Donald and Lisa reported that Timothy had been sent back to Michigan to live with family. Because the Bosses were also listed as having an address of 2021 First Street in Jackson, Michigan, and often traveled between the 2 states, the claim wasn't far-fetched, and it's understandable why they weren't immediately suspected of murder. Within the 2 years since Timothy's death, the Bosses continued to collect more than $3,000 a month from the state of Michigan for the boys' care. Full details of Timothy's murder weren't revealed until December 5th, when Donald's 15-year-old adopted son, Claxton, testified against him in court. Claxton, who preferred to go by his middle name, Will, said that the boys were locked in their basement bedroom at night. They weren't allowed to leave, not even to use the bathroom, and were forced to wear diapers after they had urinated on the floor. In order to escape their room, Timothy had punched holes in the sheetrock walls so the boys could avoid an alarm Donald had installed on the door, thus allowing them to sneak out at night and, according to Will, commit thefts. He went on to say that the last time he saw Timothy was on February 23rd, 2000. Mom and Dad would hit him with a wooden paddle. Dad got sick and tired of him punching holes in the wall, so he tied him to a chair. He added that while his hands and legs were bound to the chair, Donald had also used plastic zip ties to bind his neck to a shelf. Watching through one of the holes Timothy had punched in the wall, Will witnessed Donald hitting Timothy with a wooden paddle measuring 16 to 18 inches long, while Lisa whipped him with a wooden stick. During their assault, Donald hit Timothy across the left side of his head, cocking his head back. And this is the part of the story when I was doing research where I went, yeah, this is really disturbing.
This is a Tarantino movie. Like,
I mean, Tarantino would have had style.
Right.
Wouldn't be doing it to a minor also.
True, yeah.
Wow. Fearing he would get caught watching, Will left the house to pick up groceries, which was one of his household chores. When he returned, Donald and Lisa had finished beating Timothy. Donald then brought the boys their supper and cut Timothy loose. But as he did, Timothy slumped over motionless. Approximately 10 minutes later, Lisa returned to collect their dirty dishes, but realized that Timothy had not touched his food. When she checked in again later, she noticed that Timothy still hadn't moved and called for Donald. During her trial in November 2003, Lisa admitted to not seeking medical treatment for him and handed Timothy over to her husband.
God, these people are deranged. Just dropping food off at a dead body.
Yeah, and...
I mean, I guess technically he might not have been dead, but, like, he's pretty close if you're just laying on the ground for hours.
Right. And this is also where we get into why didn't his siblings say anything. So, clearly we have one of his adopted brothers who witnessed the whole thing. And what he actually said in his testimony, that when they were apprehended in Montana, they asked, well, why didn't you say anything then? You didn't tell us, you denied the existence of this wooden paddle that we found in the basement. And his excuse was, Mom told me not to say anything.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously, like, brainwashed on a level, and I don't want to sound like, I didn't want that to come across like victim blaming or something, but it's like, kids just always, they chirp, and so there must have been something very big for them to...
Well, as far as he knew, I mean, he's going to be in her care no matter what.
Right,
and
there's no other option.
If they're doing that to Timothy, then who's to say that they weren't doing that to any of the other kids?
Well, and tying the kid to the chair, because, like, it's not just, like, some kind of heat-of-the-moment thing. Like, this is very premeditated, like...
Yeah. Donald Boss was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. In 2010, Donald sought post-conviction relief and filed several appeals, claiming prosecutorial misconduct and ineffective counsel, saying that his trial attorney, Michael Williams, advised him to divulge the location of Timothy's body in an attempt to shift the blame to Lisa. The Iowa Supreme Court refused to hear his appeal. Meanwhile, Lisa pled guilty to attempted murder, voluntary manslaughter, child endangerment, and willful injury, and was sentenced to 50 years in prison. She divorced Donald and married another inmate, changing her last name to Green. While Lisa claimed that she too was the victim of Donald's abuse, prosecutors found that she was avoiding responsibility for her actions. As for the children of Donald and Lisa, most of them were put into foster care, while one was sent to stay with relatives in Michigan. It is not known if the biological children of Donald and Lisa were aware of Timothy's murder when it occurred. Lisa became eligible for parole in 2020, but I was unable to find any information regarding that. One thing is for certain, though. If Timothy were alive today, he would be coming up on his 33rd birthday. Another example of a life cut short due to an abusive upbringing. As for the house, it is currently owned by Dave and Kristen Nixon, who have invested $250,000 worth of restoration into the home. Oftentimes, their invited guests ask to see the spot where Timothy's body was hidden. Now, this is where I found another interesting factoid.
Okay.
Not so much about the murder case, but just about Iowa real estate in general.
Okay.
And I really didn't have an ending for this video, but here's what I came across. In Iowa, real estate agents are required to disclose facts that could adversely affect a home's value, but that doesn't necessarily include telling prospective buyers a crime was committed on the property. According to Paul McLaughlin, legal counsel for the Iowa Association of Realtors, it's a judgment call. Particularly gruesome murders, such as those that involve children or that generated a lot of publicity, should be disclosed in the immediate aftermath of the crime. As time passes and the shock subsides, that information has less effect on the home's value and doesn't necessarily need to be disclosed. So
the ghosts of these murders eventually decide to leave.
Oh, I mean,
in the eyes of the real estate.
That's one way of looking at it. Yeah, I was just gonna say, for anyone living in Iowa who's been there for however long, there's a good chance a murder occurred in your house and you don't know it.
Oh my gosh. Oh no.
How long ago was this house built?
In the 40s.
Yeah. I mean, by that math, you've had at least 3 or 4 murders occur in this house.
You're freaking me out. I mean, it's strange because a lot of these stories seem to kind of end on cliffhangers.
Right.
It's like, oh, there's something. It's like, it seems like it happened and it was dealt with. Right.
It's an open and shut case.
Which is probably why I haven't heard about this.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like, yeah, they caught him.
They caught him. Really, we don't know much else beyond that. I know when the news broke and they revealed the address of where it occurred, yeah, it was a shock for my parents that it happened in the house that we once lived in.
That's crazy.
And not only that, it's the first house I ever lived in.
Next time I drive through Remsen now, it won't just... I'll drive around the block, apparently, then.
I mean, I think we should make a trip. In doing this research, I found a lot of murders that have happened in Remsen, so...
Oh.
Let us know in the comments if you want to see more videos on different Iowa murders or unsolved mysteries. Just drop us a comment. Also remember to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.